Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, I'm sitting here now very close to the end of June, and certainly for most people who haven't exchanged by now, it will not happen to meet that stamp duty holiday deadline. I mentioned it last week that the biggest issue has been around lenders and removals, and the lenders this week that really caused a halt to many. They came out very clearly with their deadlines, whereby if the solicitor didn't have the certificate of title, a very important piece of paper to enable that mortgage to be drawn down with them by a certain date, then it simply wasn't going to happen. And most of those dates ended at the beginning of the week. Some of the big lenders, I don't want to name any names, but had lots of failed completions. They actually didn't send the money through in time. They simply cannot cope with the demand. So really, unless someone is buying an empty property and they are all cash, and they don't need to move on that particular date, then it's highly unlikely, if you haven't exchanged now, that you will beat that. But we still have a few buyers who are in those circumstances and trying to get across the line, and interesting scenarios being looked at to try and make that happen in time. It's feeling like a cliff edge, the end of June deadline, I have to say, and I certainly have probably about 3 very disappointed sellers who, for various reasons, will not meet that stamp duty holiday deadline, which certainly looked very achievable and able to be made earlier on. But I've talked earlier about the fact that the market isn't expected to particularly collapse in any shape or form post the stamp duty deadline. We're still seeing enormous levels of activity, and most people saying that it is the pandemic which has focused their mind to move. The search for space, be that inside or out, more greener space around you and need to be close to family, is what is driving this current boom. The stamp duty is just a bit of a cherry on the cake of saving you some money along the way. So activity levels expected to continue. But I've mentioned there how many sellers have been disappointed by not meeting that stamp duty deadline. That's because it's been taking so long. Some interesting research came out from Get Agent, which shows that the average deal is taking 286 days at the moment to take it from time of listing to getting it to getting it completed. They've got this very clever algorithm that tracks when a property goes to market and when land registry record it is completed. And interestingly, only 118 of those days on average spent in actually marketing the property. Most of it coming with the backlog of getting it over the line. So 5.5 months on average to sell your house or buy one. Phenomenal. I mean, that is way above normal. We're not seeing anything like that 118 days to sell a property. If we haven't really sold a property within the first 2 weeks at the moment, that's quite unusual. And more interesting research came out to show how quickly does someone make a decision that they want to buy a property. Interestingly, many people, about 41%, will buy a property on just one viewing with an average length of 30 minutes. And an extra 42% on top of that need a second viewing. So it's pretty much split between either first or second viewing. And as you can see, very few people needing a third or a fourth viewing and making their mind up on whether that is the right property for them in incredibly quick time. And 26% of those respondents said that had the agent had a really good virtual video tour, they wouldn't have needed to do an actual physical viewing. I know I've mentioned before how we do our presenter-led video tours here at Madison's, and they've been great in saving time for sellers and buyers. Buyers don't have a wasted viewing, and sellers aren't clearing up for a viewing that's not going to ever go anywhere. So those virtual viewings still doing really, really well. So we'll press on through next week. When I'm recording, June will be done. We'll look back and we'll see how the land lies. But just a quick other story to mention on which I was interested on to read this week: homelessness. The government has come out and made a huge pledge to really tackle homelessness. And indeed, just before as the pandemic struck, with a real concerted effort across many different elements that were involved in tackling homelessness, social services, NHS, they managed to get 26,000 homeless people off the streets and into more longer-term accommodation. It's still reckoned that there's a big issue out there. Homelessness is a complex issue. There is often plenty of space for homeless people to go to, but they don't want to go there. They're looking at tackling the root causes of what makes someone be homeless. And they've pledged £750 million to really improve that. So the Housing Minister, Robert Jenrick, came out this week and really pledged that extra support in that he really wants to tackle homelessness. So watch this space on that. It'll be really interesting to see. It's a cause that I feel quite strongly about, actually. So really hope that initiative and that focus gets some results. Well, finally, just a beautiful property that we've launched, a really lovely 4-bedroom semi-detached house on St James's Road, a Victorian villa. It is beautifully presented, full of Victorian features, lovely high ceilings throughout, a great kitchen diner and a really good garden, bigger than average, and off-road parking. So if you'd like to look at that one, do give us a call. It's an absolute jewel of a property. Well, I hope you have a great week. Looking forward to July this end, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.